Record. Okay, camera speeding, audio, hold this.
Okay. That's what we have to do, so, because we have to sync up, all those things.
Worked on some film sets.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
What did you do?
When I first moved back to the area, my friend Andrew Snowitz pulled me in to work on, first was a music video for Mount Moriah, which is a local band, and and I worked on that, and then he ran a company for a number of years called Huism Pictures, and so they pulled me in to do a bunch of music videos, a couple of short films. I did everything from art direction to occasionally did choreography, and then I've been in some music videos as well, and I'm about to do one. I don't think I can say who it's for right now, but we're very much in the planning processes. But another one, I just had a meeting about it last night that we're gonna release in the spring sometime.
Yeah.
So yeah,
And you're gonna film it. You're gonna film it, or?
I won't be the DP. I don't have enough experience behind the camera. I've done a lot of audio doc stuff, so I could do audio kinds of things. But for this, I'm gonna be choreographing and maybe in it as well, because it's just gonna be a duet between two people. So.
Wow, that's really cool. So you're like a filmmaker, dancer, teacher.
I don't know that I get the filmmaker, I get to help people with their films and do interesting things with them, but they do the filming. But yeah, I get to dabble in all of those different things.
That's cool.
Really cool.
So let's just start by, why don't you tell me about just the different things you do in Durham,
Okay.
kind of how we were talking about what your week looks like what are all of the different areas that you
do, some of my different hats that I wear, which is funny when two of those personalities have to be in the same meeting about something. So I'm a teacher. That's my main way of making money. I teach dance at right now 4 different places, though it's been up to 6 at other points in my life. So I teach in the high school at Carolina Friends School. I teach at NC State. I teach their undergrad dance company. I teach at the ADF Studios, which is a professional level class, Thursday nights. And then I teach adult beginner ballet and adult beginning modern 9th Street dance. So I teach at those 4 places, and I'm occasionally a guest teacher at places like UNC Greensboro or at Elon or places like that. So that's the teacher side of things, and that involves teaching everything from adult beginning ballet to really advanced upside down, in and out of the ground, modern dance kind of stuff, to contact improv, to setting work on students. And then I run my own company, though we're on a bit of a break right now, and that's called Vector, and that's run by myself and John Haas, who is a video designer and artist, and just went back to grad school at UT Austin for that kind of stuff. And so that company, we label it as a multimedia dance company. So the last show we did, Habitus, which premiered last March, was a piece done with a cast of 7 in a 24 by 24 foot boxing ring. And we work pretty thematically, so we'll start from a question that we don't quite have the answers to. And in this case, we were exploring our relationships to anger, violence, being nice, how we learn and perform those things. And a lot of our work, I think, ends up functioning around social norms. And the piece we did in 2012, the first work we did together as our own work, was called Secrets I Never Told My Mother. And so looking at why do we hold secrets and where is that? So we're often exploring that kind of work. And in that company, we work with different people depending on the project. A piece about anger and aggression requires a certain kind of dancer who can get into that really intense place, but has a broad range of qualitative ability. And that's really different than a dancer that I might cast in, a duet that's really about tenderness or something. But for that piece, we worked with a cast of 7. So it was 6 people who were primarily dancers, and then 1 person who's primarily an actress, but had a lot of movement background. And she had a bit of a different role inside of it, which was a really cool way to work. And then John creates a bunch of video stuff, and we work a lot with things like motion tracking and, using an infrared camera on someone's body to track where they are in space, and then having stuff on them. So that's that thing. And then teaching, Vector. DIDA is Durham Independent Dance Artists, which is an org that myself and three other dance people started a year ago. Basically, it's myself, Nicola Bullock, who is another dance artist I work with a lot in the area, Justin Tourneau, another dance artist as well and teacher, and Lightsey Darks, who is a dancer and dance critic who moved here from Minneapolis. And she, when she moved here, said, it sort of looked at the dance scene where all these haphazard things that were happening and said, you know, as a critic, critics don't really know what's going on in the dance scene here, and you could actually get reviews and get previews of your shows if you amalgamated at least 7 performances into a season. Because most dance only runs for 1 weekend, which is really hard for a newspaper that comes out weekly, like the Indie or something, to write a review, because there's really not a point. So yeah, she basically was like, what if we organized a season all together? And I have to sneeze now. Nope, not gonna come out. And yeah, and so that's what we started doing. And basically we said this at our, we just started our 2nd season, and at our party for the 2nd season, to sort of, you know, our kickoff party, we said, we got up there, we said, you know, we didn't really expect this to work as well as it did, and now it has worked really well. We had 10 shows on the first season, and I think expanded audiences for artists in the area, because the work is really different and has different kinds of audiences. And artists got reviews and previews of their shows that they wouldn't have otherwise. And yeah, it was one of those things where we decided we wanted to do as little work as possible. We wanted to have as little money involved as possible. We just wanted to be sort of an organizing entity. So we did that, and now we're developing more and having to figure out what that looks like. And I can talk to you more about that if you want to focus on that. And then I sort of have my dance organizer self also, which is I run a listserv that talks about things going on in the dance community, auditions and performances and things like that, which is starting to fall underneath DIDA. Eventually will sort of become a part of DIDA, but I still sort of run that personally for now. And then I perform for different people. So I am part of a company called Real Life People Durham, which is Anna Barker's company. And currently it's just a duet company, it's the 2 of us. And we're working on a new show that will premiere in May. We've been touring a piece called It's Not Me, It's You for the past year. And I dance for Renee Allmiller Dances. We just did a big show in June where I got to fly. I was in a harness and I got pulled all over the place, and a piece called Blood Moon. And I'm part of an improvisational dance collective called The Department, and that's myself and Nicola and Matthew Young. We just had a big show a couple weeks ago, and dance some for Nicola when she's doing work. We do some duet work together as well. Yeah, so I'm sure I'm like, I've danced for other companies in the area, and a lot of it's sort of pickup work here and there. Those are the main. I dance some for Shali, Comerford for Shali Dance Works. So
cool. So what was the need, or what was like the lack in the Durham dance community that started DIDA, that made you start thinking about dancers and choreographers need this? Like, what was the lack in the community, I guess?
When I moved back here 6 years ago, I moved back to North Carolina 6 years ago. I moved to Durham 5 years ago. I was living out in the country first. And I started meeting dancers and choreographers in the area who were doing really interesting things, but nobody knew about each other's stuff. There were no shared resources. There wasn't sort of a common meeting place. People didn't necessarily know that other people's shows were going on. I actually, when I first met Nicola, a mutual friend had introduced us, and I remember this, so to say, we joke about this now. We went out to have a glass of wine and talk about dance things. I was like, can you pick your brain? What's going on here? And I said, you know, it just doesn't seem like there's a whole lot going on. And she got really mad. And I was like, oh no, this chick hates me. This is terrible. But she got pissed at me because she was like, actually, I am doing things, and a lot of people here are doing things. And I sort of had this moment of like, oh, you are doing really cool things, but I didn't even know about it. And as a relatively, at that time, a relatively new person to Durham, even though I'd grown up in North Carolina, I thought, well, if I can't search these things online and I don't have the connection in, like, that's missing here. People don't know about each other's stuff. So I started, so this is sort of pre-DIDA. I think DIDA sort of has taken over this role for me in terms of organizing stuff, but I started doing these dancer get-togethers where I would email folks that I knew were dancers in the area and say, let's have, the first one I think was at, I don't remember whose house it was at. Kara Clark, I think it was at her house. She doesn't even live here anymore. And we had a clothing swap and a potluck. And it was just maybe 10 dancers getting together. And we made, I think, a Google group that we don't even use anymore. And we made a listserv, basically. And I started this email listserv with maybe 10 or 15 names on it. And it's grown to have 160 something on it now. And we just started doing these get-togethers, and we would come up with ideas. We'd make lists of what do we want, what do we need, what are we missing, and we talk about space. We were missing rehearsal space, we were missing performance space, we were missing, critics, we were missing, these different things. But also talked about, my friend Tommy actually is the one who really brought this idea out to me. He and I did a project called Mapping Dance before he moved back here from Germany. He'd been in Germany for a number of years, and he's one of the people I helped start Culture Mill with, which I didn't put on the list because I'm no longer working with them, but he and Marielle Lezion, his partner, run Culture Mill, which is an arts nonprofit out in Saxe-Baja together. But one of the things we did before starting that was we did this mapping dance questionnaire that we gave to dance folks in the area and said, not only what's missing and what do you need, but what is here and what do you see? And he's really good at looking